Hello there. A few weeks ago, we finished our original podcast where we reviewed the Rolling Stones' 100 greatest albums. When we'd done that, we had 66 albums voted on from the original list, so we had 34 to fill. What we then did was we started to do some voting parties on Twitter/X to get nominations from the guys who are on there and some from our podcast panel and see if we could find a way to plug the gaps. We ran about 20 voting parties for about 100 albums. They were good fun. We had plenty of debate, and the upshot of that was that we ended up with another 40 albums that were voted as being worthy of being added to the list. Simple mathematics tells you that we now have 106 albums on the list. So what we now have to do is, first of all, get that list back to 100 and then do a final ranking of the 100. Tonight's podcast is hopefully going to get us back to the 100, and there'll be a follow-up podcast after that where we'll do the final review with the ranking. Should be straightforward, this one, but it probably won't be. Enjoy it, stay safe, all the best. Right, guys, Lisa, George, John, how we doing? We good?
Hello.
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 Right, before we lose the audience again, right? So, we've got 106 albums on the list, the 66 that we voted on the podcast, and then from all of our friends on Twitter and X, 40 that they thought merited a place on the final list. So that's 106. So what we need to do is get back to 100 or near to 100 that we're happy with. So the plan in the chat now is to try and find a way to get the 106 down the way, if we're all okay with that. So I'm going to pull the list up and then just get around the houses and see if we can all agree which one's off the original 40 we want to take off. Be good with that?
Yep.
Okay, bear with me then. Let's be fun, I'll start again. Right. So if you can see that was the list. Yeah, that's the list of all the albums that were voted on the Twitter parties. There's 40 of them. So I guess if we're going to stick to our podcast nominations, which I think we're all agreeing we should do, we've got to lose 6 off this list. The bottom up, obviously. So I guess we'll take the bottom and go up the way. So
Great idea.
I suppose it's
sorry, can I just come in here and say, well, if we've looked at this list and we've got albums that we think shouldn't be on, rather than talking through all these albums, which could take a while,
yeah,
why don't we just open it up and then we discuss an album and decide, well,
fuck
there's
off.
no prejudices. And once I come on to what I want to talk about here, you'll understand that I don't have prejudices. In fact, you'll be very surprised with what I'm going to say.
Good.
Surprises. I would suggest doing that slightly differently, Brian. But again, I'm open to what the rest of the panel want to do.
I'm fine with that. It's our podcast. We spent a year doing it last year. So I think we do merit having the final say on what we do with it. And the guys were great, actually. The voting parties were really good fun, and some of the guys have listened to all the podcasts as well. So I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I think it is a good reference point for us. But it was always going to be us making the final call on it. So I'm fine about that. So who wants to go first then? What on the list? What do we reckon potentially could come off, and we could all maybe agree on that?
Right, I'll go first.
Go on then.
Right, okay, so Joy Division, Closer. I think that song basically is a bit of a sympathy vote. We've already got Unknown Pleasures in there. Good album, yeah, it is good. Is it top 100? No, it's not. I can list a whole host of albums that came out around about the same time or a couple of years before. You get the Gang 4 Entertainment, you get Magazine Real Life, Magazine The Correct Use of Soap, The Fall Live at the Witch Trials, Pill, Metal Box, even New Order, Power, Corruption and Lies, all trump this album. Why is it on there? Get it to fuck.
Lisa, George, are we okay with that?
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
I'm good with that, yeah.
Yeah, Joy Division. I prefer New Order, to be honest with you. I always have preferred New Order to Joy Division. So I've got no problem fucking off, as John so eloquently put it.
Okay, I'm fine about that. Well, Unknown Pleasures is still on there. And I actually personally think it's a better album than Closer. But okay.
Mythical quality about Joy Division, isn't there? You know,
Yeah.
where it all started, and then of course the tragedy. So, but at the end of the day, it's about the record,
Tragedy. No Bee Gees on it.
right?
So okay.
I'll stick with Steps. Thanks very much.
Thank you. That was easy. That's one off. Closer. Who wants to give us the next one?
Me.
Go on then.
Pixies, Doolittle, get it to fuck.
Because?
Because it's. I remember pretending to like this album to impress a young lady, and it worked. But then I ended up going and listening to the album, and I thought it fucking sucked. I don't mind the Pixies generally, but no way is it a top 100 album, in my opinion.
George,
Okay.
did that young lady end up having a bad experience? Or did you have a bad experience and therefore you're slightly got unconscious bias here? No.
She had a wonderful experience.
That's another podcast, George, isn't it?
I would say I loved, Metal Machine music, if it would allow me to get closer to some young lady at the time. That was one in particular. Doolittle, I was like, nah.
Okay. I mean, it had a half decent vote, but it's fine.
It's all right. It's okay, but nowhere near top 100 level, in my opinion.
Okay, Lisa, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm fine about that as well. Doolittle's gone. There's 2 down. What's next, Lisa? Do you want to give us one?
Well, I'm probably being unpopular here, but there's 2 that I'm thinking. I'm thinking, even though I've enjoyed the album, I've enjoyed seeing them live, but Primal Scream, I don't think is top 100, and also similarly Stone Roses. Sorry, but I'm kind of, I don't know. They were definitely, of their era. Like, it was just something that I was really into at the time, but I just don't know how much. I mean, there's a lot of people that are real fans, but I don't know how universal that is, if you know what I mean. You had to be there at the time, blah blah blah, and Bobby Gillespie's a prick, so
there always is that. Yeah.
Well, we'll take them one at a time then.
I know what I've said before about separating the art.
Yeah. So Screamadelica. So John, from memory, I think, was that one of your nominations, mate?
Well, actually, both of them were. So.
Oh well, yes. Okay. so they're off then, right? That's it. God. So I guess you obviously you could write a reply on that. So what's your
thing? I'm not saying that they should both be off, but that's the 2 that I feel more unsure about.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them were pretty much released within a short period of time, maybe a year maximum. I think the Stone Roses album at that time and still now has had a massive influence. And, if I think about the whole point of this podcast is to think about legacy as part of it, as well as the album. And I definitely think the Stone Roses album has had that legacy. Now, you might argue that that legacy has resulted in 2 bob bit bands playing, the bloody mean fiddler or whatever, the good mixer in Camden every day of the week. Through Britpop and some.
I used to play the good mixer.
I never said I was. I'm just kind of saying, some god awful Britpop bands came out.
That is
probably
true.
Off the back of that,
off the
right?
Back of the Stone Roses, 100%.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it is, I think, a fantastic album. I think there's maybe one poor track in it. I think it really is a defining album, and it has left a legacy. So for me, I think it does deserve its place. Primal
would-
Scream.
I just say, I think it's
So-
because they were around the same time, and I'm thinking, well,
That's right, yeah.
is? But actually, I would go with Stone Roses to stay in.
I would as well. I would go Stone Roses to stay in. It's a
I don't-
seminal album. It's such an important album.
And I
Sounds great.
also loved it at the time, and I just it was so different, and it just, you know, everyone was just like, whoa, what is this? But Primal Scream, I don't feel the same way about.
Okay, I'm okay with
I
that.
would agree with that as well. I'd say that the Stone Roses album, the debut album, is one of the seminal albums of the late 80s. It's right up there, and it's still inspirational today. Screamadelica, it's really good, but if I'm going to lose one of the two of them, it would be Screamadelica over the Stone Roses by some distance. Another one I would consider losing, even though it's really well recorded, well produced, sang on brilliantly, beautiful songs and stuff, is Steve McQueen by Prefab Sprout. And I like Prefab Sprout, but I'm not thinking this is a top 100 album, to be honest with you.
So Prefab Scout had a lot of love, generally, George, when we were having the chats on Twitter.
I'm very fond of Prefab Sprout, but
yeah,
if I'm going through this and I'm looking for ones to take out, that'd be one.
Okay.
Quite difficult, isn't it, when you look down the list?
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good list. I think, we gave the guys a hard time, but, a combination of the ones we put forward and then the ones we got, a lot of the gaps were filled. I think there was a lot of late 70s to late 80s bands and albums that weren't on the original Rolling Stone list. And I think we all hoped that a lot of these would come on to this list, and they have done. So, and there's also a wee bit more of an eclectic mix to some of these versus what we had before. So
there's a lot more Anglo-centric,
It has, George.
Yeah.
Quite right too, I think, Okay, so Screamadelica comes off then.
I would agree with
Prefab
Sprout, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it deserves its place. Right, okay.
Hold on, is that agreed? Anyone saying no to Paddy? Okay, it's gone.
Probably a fair point. Was that one of mine? I think it might have been.
Listen, I've been adding listeners and followers by the bucket load in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm kind of losing them now.
Well, most of my choices are near the bottom. Most of my choices are Vauxhall Conference level. Really dropped.
We all had a few, George, for sure. We all had a few.
Even with some of our own nominations, I think you would probably stand back and say, well, do you know what, maybe it doesn't. Because I actually, George, I remember talking to you about this a while ago, and we were both saying that, like, from day to day, your top 10 would change.
Yeah.
Things I'm looking back and going, well, why did I put that in? And I hear another album and I think, well, why didn't I put that in? And it's so difficult.
I've got a couple there, like
I'll go with
K.D. Lang and Raising Sand by Alison Krauss and Robert Plant, and those albums I think are exceptional. They're exceptional pieces of work.
It makes you wonder, is it actually really possible to do a top 100? I don't know.
Well, it is, because we're almost there, and I think whoever's done other lists in the past, whether you're the NME or whatever, I bet you all the guys sitting doing this have a punch up in the pub or whatever you do, because the bottom line is it comes down to opinion, doesn't it? So
John's top 100, top 100 would be different from my top 100, clearly.
Yeah. You won't get a more eclectic 100 than what we're going to end up with here.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Good mix.
Anywhere. So I've got one then to add to the debate then.
Take Steve McQueen out.
Okay, so I've got one that could maybe add to this debate. So, not because I don't love him, because I love him to death, but I wonder whether we could take Band on the Run off the list.
We could.
Because there's 5 Beatles albums on the 66 we've got so far. As I say, I adore the Beatles, you guys know I do. And I also love Band on the Run.
That would be the reason to take it off.
It's not a reason. No.
The reason to take it off would be, is it not top 100?
No, it's not. It's about, for example, I personally think Venus and Mars is a better Wings album, but it doesn't mean I'm right. So I was perfectly happy when it was voted on. I'm just saying,
oh, I know.
If we're trying to get a balance on the hundreds.
I did put my hand up when I said and I nominated that one. It was sentimental value, so I would be completely up for taking that off. And when it came to you know, and everyone was like, "Oh, the Water Boys" and everything, I was thinking, well, maybe the Water Boys do deserve it more. So I would be happy if you wanted to take that off.
Just a thought. George, John?
What the guys think.
Been a while. It's probably been a while since I've listened to it. So I'd kind of gone a bit from memory. Good album. Top 100. I'll be honest, kind of be excited about it either way.
Okay. George, you want to call it then, mate? Give us a cast on that.
I played Bluebird on the show on Sunday, Lost the Music show last Sunday. And it's the kind of song, it's almost like a throwaway McCartney song, but to anybody else, it would be like fucking a career high. But McCartney's well represented in this. He's very well represented in this top 100 already, without Band in the Run.
Give someone else a chance.
Yeah, give people a chance, you know, to paraphrase his old partner.
Absolutely. Okay. If we're okay with that knocks 5 off, which actually takes us to 101, which I think
Magic number.
Yeah, so I think, John, you had a view that we might actually want to stick at 101.
I do, but just before we might agree on that, I'm just going to throw something else into the mix here, right? So if I've only pulled out a number of albums here, but are we, you know, the whole point of this is the top 100 albums or 101 albums of all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we were actually putting forward our own nominations, right, I was very conscious of that. And that's why you didn't get the Cramps in there, right? That's why you didn't get the Pogues in there. That's why I ran into space for Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds in there, right? So I think, you know, not just thinking about that, but then I look at this and kind of think, right, well, people have put forward suggestions that have been voted in. Are we truly saying that Orange Juice, You Can't Hide Your Love Forever, is one of the best 100 albums of all time? Is that what we're saying? I'm not saying it would be in my top 100, personally, but is that one of the top albums ever? I'm struggling with that. I could,
or even the Blue Nile. Even the Blue Nile.
Even the Blue Nile. Even Treasured by the Cocktail Twins, Rattlesnakes by Lloyd Cole, Elvis Costello, This Year's Model, This Is the Sea by the Water Boys. Are they actually really top 100 albums of all time? I'm not saying they're not, but there will be an element of West of Coast bias in your voting.
And there
put these albums in here, right?
Are the Cocktail the East Coast?
No, on the voting. So there's a couple of things there, right? So work your way back a bit. It's a perfectly valid point, John. You're absolutely on the money, mate. So a lot of our listeners are sort of Scottish based, right? And that's a good thing. And a lot of the guys on Twitter and stuff are Scottish based, right? That's fine. So I think we're always angling to get a bit more of our personal preferences into the full list, because the original Rolling Stone list didn't have all of that really. But don't forget, we all had 10 nominations each. So, you know, whatever our 10 were, that was the 10 we had. So whether it was Nick Cave or other bands that, you know, me, George and Lisa didn't put on there, we could have done. We just chose not to, right? So we could go around forever on those. I think in relation to your Orange Juice versus others, it's a perfectly valid point. I mean, I put Lloyd Cole on and I adore the record, but totally get the argument that it wouldn't be one of the 100 greatest albums ever. I just don't know where to cut it if we end up reassessing all the lists.
I'm not suggesting you do. I'm just making the broader, most valid point, which I'm glad you agree. Thank you.
Maybe you should just.
What I'm thinking of.
What your gut was, put the Cramps in, see what happens. They might.
Yeah. But my thought on this was, if, you know, intelligent life appeared on planet Earth
at some point,
we didn't kill it, and we said, right, I said, what do you love about planet Earth? It would say the fucking nature and the, you know, the human beings and stuff. And then it would obviously come round to music and say, right, give me a representation of the 100 albums that fucking grab your heart and soul. It may not be the best albums in the world, but the 100 albums absolutely fucking touch you. I think this is closer, the 101 albums, to that than the best technical albums or whatever.
Mhm.
These are the 101 albums that have absolutely made us cry and fucking held us together. That's how I see this, rather than an Olympic style test of excellence. This is the great intangible.
Yeah,
Maybe what we should have done is
it's not done it.
it's
100 favorite albums.
just like, I mean, we had to start somewhere, and obviously Brian's idea was this whole thing, and I'm now looking back and thinking, right, so maybe we should have just voted with, this is our top 100, you know.
Yeah,
We could maybe do that still.
25 each. Let's go 25 each.
Okay.
25 favorite albums
And that'll be it done. I mean, Don, I think like George was saying, like at the end of the day, it's what touches you. Music is all about what absolutely makes the hair stand up in your neck, what really gets you, what you remember, memories, everything is, it just is so much, it forms our whole lives, really, like for most of us. So obviously when we were choosing our top 10, we were going to be very subjective about it. John, you should have been more subjective. You should have gone with your Cramps and your,
Clearly.
Absolutely supported that.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do another list at some point that gives us a way to do favourite albums, or there's a chat about doing the 50 greatest songs or something. There's a whole bunch of ways that we've got a live albums thing to do that I've already committed to doing that, because we had that debate in the original podcast. So we're going to do something on best live albums.
Compilations.
And comps as well, George, for sure. So
Count me out of that one.
So I think to take George's point, I genuinely believe I wouldn't have picked all these records, but it's not my 100. But I genuinely believe when you sit back and look at it, at some point you'll look at it and go, bloody hell, that's good. That's good as well. I think there's so many things on there that, I love the fact that Sinatra got voted on this one, Fitzgerald and Armstrong got voted on. We got a Roxy Music album on, which wasn't on before. We get Kraftwerk on. So we managed to start filling a lot of the gaps in the jigsaw that when I saw the original list going, why are these guys not kind of on the money? Otis Redding's on. So I think there's a lot of depth now to the list when you push the two together that wasn't there before. It's certainly not perfect, but listen, we could do it for 100 years and it wouldn't be perfect. So George's point's right one. If it feels pretty good, it probably is.
No music is perfect, so we can't create a perfect list.
That's why we love it, right? So I think, we have got 101 here. John, your points are absolutely noted, mate, because I think we've all got the same view on things that are very close to our heart that aren't on.
We're going for 100 or 100?
101 I like, if everybody's okay with that.
101's good.
101ers. It does give us a nod to the great man as well. So, and it makes it different to anyone else's. So, but we're fine with all that. So I think what we agreed was the list as it stands, plus this list, minus Closer, Doolittle, Screamadelica, Steve McQueen, and Band on the Run, I think was the 5. Are we yaying on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I'm going to come out the stop share then. Okay, here we go. Cool. Okay.
I look forward to the aftermath when you announce this on Twitter.
I'll go on holiday or something when I post that. So I think what we've got is 101 there.
It's a podcast.
Exactly. It's our podcast. They don't have to listen, right? They don't have to. So what we're going to do is I'll tidy that up and I'll get it out there. And we have one more thing to do, which we'll do offline, which is we genuinely do have to find a way of getting some sort of order to the 100 to number 1. Now I've got a couple ideas about that, but either we just plonk the 34 in that we've just added somewhere on the list, or we have a go at saying, actually, do you know what? The Velvet Underground probably do Want to Be Higher and Bowie's Hunky Dory isn't 78 or whatever it was.
I think we're up
You know.
against it if we're doing that. That's going to take months.
Got an idea.
Chronological.
Got an idea.
Go on then.
I've got an idea. So the ones that weren't on the top 100, so that's all the ones that have been voted in. Obviously, we're just discussing some. They go from 100 down, and then you just have the ones that were retained on the list down to number 1. But we might want to have a discussion around what we see as being the top 10 albums or top whatever, right?
Yeah,
but I think to George's So I think to George's point, we'd be here all, for months trying to work out what order. And, I think the whole point was to get 100. We've now got the 100. So now it's about
100, pick each top 10. Each pick a top 10.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you have a discussion perhaps around formalising what that top 10 is. But everything else should just be in chronological order.
It's actually, does it really matter if you're 53 or 59?
No.
Or,
But it'd be nice to see the albums, it's nice to see the groups of albums that came from, let's say, 66 to 72, the ones that have made, there'll be a big chunk from that era, and then there'll be a big chunk from maybe 80 to 88. There'll be a big chunk from that time as well. So it'd be interesting to see where most of the clusters are formed.
So if I'm getting that right, then we take the ones that were voted in on the party that we've just tidied up. They go at the top of the list.
That's 101 down to
whatever, right?
67,
right?
Or whatever, right? And then you've got your 66 to number 1 in the order that they appear in Rolling Stone. But the top 10 is where we then maybe have a discussion around what we feel should be the ultimate top 10 out those 100 albums.
Okay, so we then, from that 100, we try and put our top 10 together.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
So we then have a chat about that and discuss it. Okay. And, take it from there. Don't know, just idea.
Well, we are hoping to try and do that in the room for the last one, because we said we would. So I have a couple of things planned to try and get us into somewhere that we can sit and have that debate around the table rather than on a screen. So hopefully that will work for everyone, probably Glasgow. So maybe that gives us a wee bit of time to go away and think about that. And we can obviously get some input from other people. But when we do that, that becomes the chat and debate, and we finish on that point then. Yeah.
And other people, why?
No, not for input, just for comment. Because people are interested, aren't they? That's kind of half the fun, isn't it? If
an audience,
we're going to sit and decide.
We might, I don't know. I might have an audience. I don't know. Who would want to come and listen to us wittering on, right? So.
Be surprised.
Okay, John, that sounds like a plan. If you're okay with that, then that's what we'll do. I'll get the 100 list out as we've updated, and I'll then challenge the 4 of us to come up with a top 10.
A singular top 10 or a top 10 each?
Oh, no, I couldn't do a top 10. That would kill me. I'll do one. One, George, singular.
One between us all.
So we have to find a way of agreeing a top 10.
Never agree on this.
Never
agree on this, but I'll give it a go.
I'll tell you what we'll do, right? Yeah, I'll take it away. We can manage this, right? This is manageable. Go away, put together from the 100 your favourite top 20 albums, right?
That's 20.
Right,
oh my
right.
God.
Listen.
The ones you already have, right?
Correct. So to review the 100, pick best 20, send them in, and from that we'll put together the ones that we've agreed on. So let's say there's 5 that we've all agreed on out of the 20. They become the top 5, don't they? Because that's what we've agreed on. Or top 3 or whatever.
Like
you could just rate them. So if it's a top 10, if your number 1 album gets 10 points, and the albums with the most points out of the 40 that we put in, obviously some will be duplicates. You're all going to vote for the Clash. I
see Eurovision. I just feel Eurovision.
It's a great concept.
Chaos, mate.
I love Eurovision.
No point.
Aye.
Okay. That's perfect.
Over
Let's
to
do that.
over to the head case and Denny.
Over to the Denny judge.
Oh, brilliant.
Thought of doing this in person. I think we could just like batter it out, no bother, in person.
Yeah,
You
sure
sure?
we could. Yeah, we'll have a wee. Yeah, we'll toast the podcast and stuff as well for sure. We said we're going to do it, so we'll do it, right? Absolutely do it. So, okay. I won't burn the chat forever on it because we'll probably start reviewing the 100 again, or 101. Sorry. So, but we've got 101 now. We'll tidy that up. We'll get it out to you, and we'll have a think about what that final list looks like, and we'll do that in the room sometime in the near future. Does that sound like a plan?
Okay.
Brilliant.
It is.
Okay, nice to see you all again. And see when I send the list out, check I haven't sneaked any in there that weren't on the list, right?
21-12.
21-12. I'm
watching for that.
I wasn't going to admit. Listen, I wasn't going to admit this, but you know, since we're amongst friends, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually going to see a Rush tribute band tomorrow night.
What they call Bums Rush.
I mean, and there is a whole story to it, but why am I trying to defend it? I am going, and I will report back to you on how amazing it was. Don't
Keep it yourself.
Yeah.
I am going to drink so much beer before they come on.
Where is
Yeah,
this?
you probably have to.
Where is this?
It's in the Albany.
I'll bet you that David Curry will be there.
I bet you will.
In
And
fact, he will, because all our kids at the caravan and his daughter, who's back from Australia, is at their caravan, so he's not at the caravan. I bet you, if you're not at the caravan, you're at the Rush band.
John, I thought I could do a review of this for Into Creative. What
Well, by all means, I'll maybe leave George to do the edit on that one because I might be a bit biased.
Sounds fun. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I told you now. All right, we'll be thinking good thoughts from me tomorrow. Okay.
I'm sure it'll be great fun. You'll be on with last night's one at some point.
Yes, I will.
Marvelous.
Absolutely, I will.
Excellent.
Guys, lovely to see you all again. It's been a while, and I'll get that list out to you. We'll get this on YouTube and stuff to update the troops, and we'll get that in the room stuff sorted for the very near future. All righty.
Fantastic.
Thanks again. Take care now, and we'll catch you all soon. All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Okay, bye.